and I was cut off with it incomplete and undertook to provide the chronology to the committee, which I have done.
Well, thank you for cutting me off, Clerk.
Tonight, more SNC-Lavalin fallout. Ranks under the Trudeau Liberal government shrinks with the retirement of its top bureaucrat.
I wanted not to just bring them back, but to reimagine them, you know, and let them live today, because Indigenous people were not stuck in the past.
With the songs and 100-year-old recordings of the voices of his ancestors, Jeremy Dutcher becomes a Juno Award-winning musician.
I think it's kind of whack that they put us all in one group.
And questions about whether a Juno Award for Indigenous Album of the Year should continue. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. After 2 weeks away, MPs were back on Parliament Hill today, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made his third cabinet shuffle in as many months. It was necessary after the abrupt resignation of Jane Philpott as president of the Treasury Board. Vancouver MP Joyce Murray replaces Philpott. Murray is known for criticizing her own government for purchasing the Trans Mountain Pipeline from Kinder Morgan. But at her post-swearing-in press conference, Murray appeared to now back the government's approach.
The Federal Court of Appeal pointed out 2 areas that needed to be worked on, and those were areas that I had concern about. And the government is addressing those areas, the marine environment and consultation with Indigenous people, so that this project can go forward in the right way.
There's been another development on the SNC-Lavalin story. Clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Wernick, says he's retiring. The announcement comes on the eve of another Justice Committee hearing. Wernick was appointed clerk by Prime Minister Trudeau in 2016. Prior to that, he was Deputy Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada. Former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould had accused Wernick of making veiled threats against her if she did not cut a plea bargain with SNC-Lavalin. Wernick denied that. Here's an exchange between Wernick and Conservative MP Lisa Raitt at the March 6th Justice Committee meeting.
Not more than 2 weeks ago, when you gave your first testimony about having no contact with SNC, you said nothing about this phone call, and yet today
I was cut off, if you recall, Ms. Raitt. I was proceeding to read the chronology, and I was cut off with it incomplete and undertook to provide the chronology to the committee, which I have done.
Well, thank you for cutting me off, Clerk. But as I was going to say, I think it's incredibly pertinent, and you must have had a knowledge of it because you gave us almost a verbatim right now about what the content of that telephone call is. Can you not see how disturbing this could be for Canadians to see that former clerks who are now chairs of boards of SNC-Lavalin have easy access and immediate access into the central office of this government, into your office, when you turned down everybody else and walked out of a gala because you didn't want to see SNC anymore? Do you not see that as a problem for this country?
No.
The Quebec government has created an expert committee in an attempt to restore confidence in the justice system for victims of sexual assault and domestic abuse. Justice Minister Sonia Lebel says the committee will have a year to come up with a plan to improve the justice system for victims. Judicial members, victims, Indigenous representatives, and experts on sexual assault will make up the committee. President of the Quebec Native Women's Association, Viviane Michel, said she was pleased with the announcement since her organization made a similar request during the provincial and national inquiries into the matter.
Lorsqu'on parle des problèmes d'agression sexuelle et de violence conjugale des Premières Nations est un grand défi. Parce qu'on sait qu'à l'intérieur des communautés comme à l'extérieur des communautés, les Premières Nations n'ont pas autant de services pour une victime. Donc ça va être, je crois, le gros défi que ce comité aura à faire, à regarder un œil un peu plus haut pour les Premières Nations dans les besoins d'accompagnement des victimes d'agression.
Still in Quebec, a First Nation there resolved a long-standing land claim today with a promise from Crown Indigenous Relations to begin talks about a host of other issues. Today's announcement included a $116 million settlement of 29 outstanding specific claims by Kitigan-Zibi. Those go back over 100 years to the creation of the town Maniwagi. An MOU was signed to address everything from title and rights to socioeconomic development to self-determination.
We are and have been committed to this process. With the signing today, the Minister, on behalf of Canada, is showing Canada's commitment to this process and to seriously addressing our outstanding issues. Today is a day we can and should celebrate together.
Indigenous musicians certainly represented at the Juno Awards this past weekend. We'll tell you all about that after the break, but first, here's tomorrow's weather. Over on the East Coast, we've got 1 and rain in St. John's, 1 and rain in Halifax. -11 and snow for Inukjuak, -15 and snow in Kuujjuaq. Lots of sun in southern Quebec, Chibougamau, -7, -1 in Montreal, -3 in Saint Jovite. 1 and sunshine in North Bay, 2 in the capital city. 1 and snow in Big Trout Lake, 4 and sunny in Thunder Bay. Kapuskasing is 2, as is Timmins. 4s for Thompson and God's Lake, sunshine there. 3 in Puckatawagan. 3s for Barons River and Princess Harbor, sunshine there. 2s in Gimli and Winnipeg. 5 in North Battleford, sunshine. 3 in Saskatoon and Regina, and sunny skies. 5 and sunny in Stony Rapids. 6s for Uranium City, Buffalo Narrows, and La Ronge. Welcome back. The 2019 Junos wrapped up last night in London, Ontario. APTN's Amber Bernard was on the red carpet and talked to Indigenous Music Album of the Year award winner Jeremy Dutcher.
So we're here at the Junos 2019 red carpet. Joining us is Jeremy Dutcher. Thanks for being here with us.
It's such a pleasure.
So you just won the Indigenous Album of the Year.
Presented by APTN, of course.
Of course. So how does that feel?
It feels really, really great. I'm so honored to be included with all those other incredible Indigenous nominees. Northern Cree, Alyssa P, Snotty Nose Redskids, Leonard Sumner. All of these people are amazing. And win or lose any of us, we were just there to celebrate each other and Indigenous excellence. And to have, I get to go on the broadcast tonight and be on television and to get to share our songs and our messages and our stories and our language. This is exactly what I want to do. And so for me, to share this outfit right now, this outfit is about the land and the language. So right now you're seeing the land, and on the broadcast you'll see the language, but I can't show you that yet. So a little teaser for you.
Stay. Do a twirl for us. Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's stuck, but it's okay.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about your album, because it's really unique, and tell us why it's unique.
Totally. So I wrote an album a little while ago. It came out last year called Wulastuwiglin Tuwaganawa. And that means the songs of the people of the beautiful river. And so these are traditional songs where I come from that were collected over 110 years ago and put in the museum. And then at the encouragement of my elder in my territory in the East Coast, she said, go to that museum, go bring those songs back here. And so that's what I did. And I wanted not to just bring them back, but to reimagine them, and let them live today. Because Indigenous people were not stuck in the past. Our cultures are flexible and they're fluid and they're moving forward. And so that's what I wanted to say with this music, and that's the message I want to bring forward tonight.
Okay, so my next question is, being a young Indigenous musician, and you're bringing, you're reclaiming Indigenous culture again, right? So did you experience any pushback?
I danced through all that, Pushback to me is people that don't understand the full context of this work. And so what I know is that my community, Wulastuwig, people from the Eastern Door, have been very, very responsive and have really lifted me up in this work. And so I choose to focus on that. And I've been so lucky that I've been supported in that way.
Okay, so my next question is for young Indigenous musicians, aspiring to be here.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give them?
What I would say to them, those young ones, the ones yet to come, is that create what you need to create. Don't create for anyone else. Don't create for money. Don't create for an award. Create for what you know to be true. Because your identity and where you sit as a young Indigenous person is exactly what this country needs to hear right now. So say what you need to say, and don't translate or change that message for anyone. That's what I would say. Cool.
Some Some smart words. Jeremy Dutcher wasn't the only Indigenous Juno winner last night in London. Lauren and Brooke Deliri are collectively known as the faith-forward pop duo Love Collide.
Everything that I hold on to, I am letting go. Every dream I made without you.
The sisters accepted their first ever Juno Award at the gala on Saturday night. Their album, Tired of Basic, won the Contemporary Christian Gospel Album of the Year. They beat out big names like Brian Dirksen, Manic Drive, and Tim Neufeld. The Snotty Nose Rez Kids were also on the red carpet. They were nominated for the Indigenous Music Album of the Year. They were among 5 nominees for the award that included Leonard Sumner, Elizabeth, Isaac, and Northern Cree. But Snotty Nose Rez Kids say Indigenous music shouldn't be boxed into one category.
Yeah, you know, just to be nominated is dope. Like, it's a surreal feeling. And as far as like the Indigenous music category goes, I do take pride in it, but at the same time, I think it's kind of whack that they put us all in one group. It's like there's like 4 or 5 different genres in one category. You know what I mean?
Alan Greyeyes is with the Sagaway Music Festival, and he spent his career developing and showcasing Indigenous musicians. He's also on the Juno screening committee. I talked to him earlier today about the Weekend Awards show and the future of Indigenous music. Alan Greyeyes, thanks for joining us. So, what did you make of the performance or the Juno successes last night? Nominations and the winners.
It was incredible. Like, any chance we have an opportunity to shine a spotlight on the accomplishments of Indigenous people in Canada, I think we got to take it.
Was this one of the better years for Indigenous musicians?
Well, it's definitely the number of nominees were down from previous years. Like, in the past, we've seen success in multiple categories, and so I think it was just the Indigenous category nominees and then Love Collide that were in the running this year.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Indigenous music category. There was some conversation with some of the nominees after one of the nominees and one of the winners saying maybe it's time that we, you know, put the pin in this and we just go into our own genres. What are your thoughts on that? You're from a music background. You think what?
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time working within this community, the Indigenous music community, and being a part of the category there. I was the chair for a couple of years, and I really think I feel like this is part of a tradition that we're fed and an idea that we're fed in an early age, and specifically through the public school system, that, you know, Indigenous people only have value when it's proved in competition with our Canadian counterparts. And I really the other thing the point I want to make is that these guys are awesome. But they're also really young, and we need these opportunities to discuss these kind of issues, or we need opportunities to discuss these issues in person and to have conversations and to be able to, you know, change our minds.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm not going to have all the answers. I don't think anyone else has all the answers, but I think when we come together to talk about these things, we kind of learn and help each other develop as a community too.
You're on the Juno screening committee, so what do you do for that?
Well, I'm a member of the Indigenous category screening committee, and so all we do is help with outreach, making sure the Indigenous artists that have eligible albums submit the albums to the category, and then we also meet once all the submissions are in to make sure that the submissions meet the criteria of the category. And for the Indigenous category, it's really different. Like, unfortunately, the Junos and Caras treat Indigenous music as a genre when it really isn't a genre. It's a community, and there's multiple genres within our community, and so I think that creates a lot of the challenge, or a lot of the misunderstanding here.
Do we have, or do we go into our own genres?
I think, well, the beauty of the Junos is that Indigenous artists have the opportunity to submit to the Indigenous category and then all the other genre categories that they want to. And I think that's often what happens with Jeremy and Snotty Nose Rez Kids. They're super talented, and with that talent, they've also got teams. So I'm guessing that they just didn't know that they were submitted in those other categories, and that, again, creates a little bit of confusion.
Lots to discuss. You had mentioned something, too, before we got talking here about the acceptance of Indigenous musicians outside of Canada. Some people might be surprised to see how. Tell us about Northern Cree.
Oh man, Northern Cree are incredible. I think they've got 11 Grammy nominations.
Yeah.
Last year they performed in the pre-Grammy award show, and these guys have 100,000 plus Facebook fans, and so there's such a big market for them. And so I think it would have been incredible to see their acceptance speech, to see them perform at the awards or the gala. And it's one thing that I've been trying to champion for a long time, is having more of our drum groups, because powwow culture, those competition drums are legitimate rock stars in our community.
Yeah.
And so they deserve those stages too.
Well, we can't wait to see how this all shakes down with the future Junos.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Time for another break, but when we come back, we'll tell you about APTN's new French newscast. And here's the rest of tomorrow's weather. To northern Alberta, we've got 11 in sunshine in Fort Chip, 15 and sunny in Fort McMurray. 16s for Calgary's, 12 for Lethbridge, 13 for Medicine Hat, lots of sun in southern Alberta. 17 in Kamloops, 16 for Victoria and Vancouver. 11 in sunshine in Dease Lake, 13 in sunny skies in Fort Nelson. 9 in Dawson City, 6 is for Old Crow and Rock River, clear skies. 10 in sunshine in Norman Wells, 8 in Yellowknife, 9 in Wattie. Peck is snowing and -8 as is Sax Harbor. Colville Lake, though, some sunshine and +7. -26 in Repulse Bay, -14 in Cambridge Bay with snow. -29 in snow in Arctic Bay, -31, and snow in Resolute, and -30, but clear skies in Pangerton. Welcome back. This summer, APTN will launch a French newscast. Nouvelle Nationale d'APTN will air every Monday starting August 26th. With me now to tell us more are APTN's Tom Fenario and Sophie Claude Miller. Thank you guys for coming to APTN International headquarters here in Winnipeg. So we've had a team in Montreal since 2004. Why are we having this new show?
Because it will answer really in French, bring the news to the Indigenous communities, and also even the Québécois that are interested in APTN and the Indigenous issues. So they will know about the Quebec stories, but also some that are throughout Canada that maybe mainstream media might not be focusing or even translating the stories for.
I love this.
I've been at APTN since 2008, and I started as a cameraman with Danielle Rochette, and then I became a video journalist, and we would often do stories for French-speaking Indigenous folks, but the stories would almost be for like English Canada. Right. So we would interview people in French, but then put English subtitles, and it would always be a little disappointing for us to be like, yeah, we told your story, but it's going to be in a language you don't even speak. So it's great for us to fix that and finally provide the coverage that French-speaking Indigenous folks deserve.
I like this. Yeah, this is great. Okay, so what are some of the upcoming stories that we can expect to see out of Quebec?
Well, there's one file, there's the Sayona mining. They want to do lithium mines, and they were asking to do it without a BAP, saying they will go under 2,000 tons per day. But the government said, no, we want to have that environmental study. So I really look forward, because there's 2 mining projects in Quebec, so I look forward to see what is going to be with that. Other than that, there's the few disappearance, the Indigenous women that disappeared, and we still don't know where the investigation is going on, so we're going to keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, there's the commission that came out of the Val d'Or case, where several SQ, the Quebec Provincial Police officers were accused of sexually and physically assaulting Indigenous women in Val d'Or, Quebec. The report that came out of the inquiry is going to finally come out in September, and you better believe we're going to follow every single recommendation that comes out of that report and make sure there's answers to every single one of those recommendations.
I love it. So you are not a video journalist anymore, you're now a producer, got a promotion to do this show, but people who watch APTN have come to know and love Tom Fenario with the scenario, as we like to say here on the desk. It's Tom Fenario with the scenario. Are we still going to be seeing stories in English from you?
Yes, for sure. And Sophie Claude, I believe, will also be doing, when things are of interest to the rest of Canada, we'll totally be translating back and forth. We'll also be taking English stories and making them French for Quebec.
There is an interest. Like I have some community members in Montreal and in Quebec that are saying, we're not talking about the pipelines enough. We want to know more, and we would like to hear about it in French, because some of them are speak their Indigenous language and then French and maybe a little bit of English, and some don't at all. So they're really interested in that. And even the Carey Price story I did lately.
Love that story.
The public really asked for it in French as well. So there is a demand.
Is there going to be an online presence?
Yeah, we will have a website coming up. We'll also have Facebook, and the idea is that although the French show will be on every Monday, if a story comes up on Wednesday, it's going to go to the internet immediately, and then by the time the Monday show rolls around, we'll have an update on that story. And so that's the way we're going to roll once we have it going on August 26th, right? So
yes, yeah. August 26th. Well, thank you guys for coming in and sharing this with us and get everybody else excited about what's coming down the chute in Montreal.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Until 1999, Nunavut was part of the Northwest Territories. 20 years ago, on April 1st, Nunavut became its own territory. As part of that birthday celebration, APTN teamed up with Up Here magazine to do a series of stories to find out what youth want for their territory in the next 20 years. We'll be rolling those stories out starting in April. Our Northwest Territories reporter, Charlotte Moritz-Jacobs, spoke with Dennis Ward about shooting the series.
Charlotte, thanks for taking some time to join us. Can you tell us a bit about the collaboration with Up Here magazine?
Absolutely, Dennis. So the journalist Jessica Davy-Quantick and myself traveled to Nunavut in preparation for Nunavut's 20th anniversary. We decided to go in and talk to people about what they were looking forward to in the next 20 years, look back to 1999, some of the successes and some of the downfalls. So collaborating with the magazine just allowed us to go into the communities and really take our time talking with community members.
What were some of those communities that you went to gather your stories?
So we traveled to the Kavalak region first of Rankin Inlet, and then we made our way to Pengartung, Nunavut on Baffin Island, and finally to Iqaluit.
And you mentioned, you're focusing on the youth in the territory and what they hope for in the next 20 years. Is there a common theme that you heard from the people you spoke to?
Yes, well, every region, every community is vastly different. There were several common themes, including the need for mental health resources, as most of the North has a revolving door for social workers, for mental health counselors. There was also a need for more services and more things for youth to do. Every community we went to, there was often youth that were bored, that were hanging out in the co-op in the North Mart, that were out late at night because there was no activities for them to do. Another common theme that we saw was youth going away to school and coming back and not being able to find jobs, or finding jobs that were just at a base level. So youth were really looking at economic growth. They're all for exploration and building stronger economies, but they're afraid about their job prospects when it seems to be a lot of Southerners that come up still and take those high-paying jobs. So that was something that probably stuck out.
Charlotte, sounds like an important series. When can we expect to start seeing some of the stories?
So Up Here magazine and APTN will be rolling out the coverage on the 20th anniversary of April 1st. So we'll be having packs every single day. You can expect coverage both online and in broadcast for the magazine and for APTN.
Exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. Charlotte, appreciate you taking some time for us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can't wait for that series. Well, that is your news for this Monday. You can check out our website, aptnnews.ca, if you've missed anything. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.